How does someone who was chewed up and spit out by the mainstream music industry, disappeared, went to jail, made to live homeless, and lost his brother, come back as a villain? Law 24 reads, recreate yourself. Do not accept the roles that society foists on you. Recreate yourself by forging a new identity, one that commands attention and never bores the audience. Be the master of your own image rather than letting others define it for you. Incorporate dramatic devices into your public gestures and actions. Your power will be enhanced, and your character will seem larger than life. MF Doom is arguably the most legendary underground rapper of all time, spanning decades. But he wasn't always wearing a mask and up to different shenanigans, and he shares a ton of similarity to the story of a 19th century woman who abandoned everything to dress up as a man. In 1831, a woman named Aurore Dupont left her husband and family in the provinces of France to move to Paris to pursue being a writer. It was her belief that marriage was worse than prison, since she couldn't pursue her dream and passion of becoming a writer. Once she arrived in Paris, though, she would come to find out it wasn't that easy. The freedom to be a writer she was seeking by abandoning her family did not afford her freedom in Paris because you needed to have money already. And the women who had money either got it through marriage or prostitution. Women didn't make any money from writing. It was a hobby that was supported by their husbands or an inheritance. And when she first approached an editor, he told her flat out, "You should make babies, madame, not literature." She was chasing an impossible dream, but she came up with a plan that was going to allow her to get everything she wanted and more, reinventing herself. In 1832, a publisher would accept Dupont's first major novel, Indiana. Only it wasn't written by a woman, or they thought it wasn't. It was written by Dupont's new identity and pseudonym, George Sand, and all of Paris thought this new writer whose work they were impressed with was male. She sometimes even wore men's clothes before creating Sand, and now as a public figure, she made the image even bigger. She went from wearing men's shirts to men's coats, gray hats, heavy boots, and more. She smoked cigars and in conversation expressed herself like a man. She was even brought into the crew of male artists that women were never invited to hang out with, as peers. They felt like they were in the presence of a man despite knowing that she was a woman. She also had affairs with some of the most famous people, being Musset, Liszt, and Chopin. The people who knew her personally were aware that it was only in public she portrayed this persona, but in private she was the same woman. For instance, one of her closest friends, Gustave Flaubert, was told that she had zero desire to be a man, and she was playing this part just for the public. She wanted power to determine her own character, that wasn't limited by what society saw her as, so she needed to create a persona she could continuously adapt to her own pursuits, and she was aware she would have to revamp George Sand ever so often, so people wouldn't grow bored of him. So instead of these affairs, it would eventually be involving him in politics, urging students to protest, leading different demonstrations. She didn't allow this character to be put in a box by the people. Understand this, the world wants to assign you a role in life, and once you accept that role, you are doomed. Your power is limited to the tiny amount allotted to the role you have selected or have been forced to assume. An actor, on the other hand, plays many roles. Enjoy that protean power, and if it is beyond you, at least forge a new identity, one of your own making, one that has had no boundaries assigned to it by an envious and resentful world. This act of defiance is Promethean. It makes you responsible for your own creation. Your new identity will protect you from the world precisely because it is not you. It is a costume you put on and take off. You need not take it personally, and your new identity sets you apart, gives you theatrical presence. Those in the back rows can see you and hear you. Those in the front rows marvel at your audacity. MF Doom was not always the villainous character we've come to know him as. He was once Daniel Dumoulin, or Zev Love X, an activist who even spoke up to the US Senate in an attempt to get them to register voters when they got identification from the DMV, something Doom would never be expected to do.
To me, so it was easy for me to understand, you know what I'm saying, opposed to a lot of other things in politics. I don't even, you know what I'm saying, I don't even deal with it. So this is so easy for me to understand that I did the public service announcement and then went on to this tour that we did, you know what I'm saying, we just got, this the last day of the tour. I was on it for 3 weeks. Right now, if it was that easy for me to understand, that's why we went on the tour, because I knew throughout colleges, I mean, they're our age group and they understand what we're saying, being that they look up to us, or you know what I'm saying, we're figures that they would like to listen to, or we have a voice in the community as far as young people. I knew that if it appealed to me, the first time I heard it, it would appeal to them. And we have proof that it did. 4,000 cards got filled out, 4,000 those cards got filled out from the tour, and I think it could really make a change as far as I'm concerned. You know.
His first foray into the rap game came in a group called KMD for Causing Much Damage, with his younger brother DJ Subrock and Rodan, who would later be replaced by Onyx the Birthstone Kid. They were signed to a big label, Elektra Records, and their debut album Mr. Hood would be released in 1991. This album and group would explore themes that would engage in politics, the plight of black people in America, and different movements. Take for instance the song Nitty Gritty featuring Brand Nubian. Dumile would rap, KMD and Brand Nubian, friends, X tends to grip palm and cousin calm, in this knowledge of self, so commence to bomb. These references to conscious spiritual movements within the black community at the time, and Dumile was a part of the Ansaru Allah group, which would more commonly become known as the Nawabian Nation, led by Dr. York, who is way too long of a topic to get into today. An offshoot of the Nation of Gods and Erts, or the Five Percenters, who were an offshoot of the Nation of Islam. He would follow this up with, I figure I just saw Jamar the other day uptown, give him a pound, it's no puzzle, relax, the nitwits guzzle 85, proof that's max. The 85 is in reference to the 85% of people that are sleep or uncivilized, as cleanly as I can put it, but really it's a lot more descriptive than that. Then there are 10% of the world that are rich, that teach the poor lies and keep knowledge from them. And then 5%, the poor but righteous teachers who don't believe in what the 10% are doing and are all wise, knowing who God is. This is a philosophy that can be found in the Nation of Islam's Lost Found Muslim Lesson number 2, but would be adopted to 5%ers, is what Lord Jamar was, and I believe still is a part of. On the song Who Me, Dumile would rap, ugly as when our hair kinks, we thinks, then zap goes the nap, now I got's good hair. If that's good hair, then bad's a hood's hair. Comb, twisted dome, braided or faded.
The first man played it and now we hate it. Robbed of our culture, true indeed, I bear witness.
Throughout this entire song, diving deep into characteristics and black features, as well as how they've been received by society in America in the past and during his time, from hair in this verse to lips in another, to addressing the Sambo character as well. KMD would record another album called Black Bastards, but before it was finished, DJ Subrock, Dumile's younger brother, would be killed in a car accident, which shattered Dumile. He would lock in and finish the album that was set for release on May 3rd, 1994, but they would be dropped from Elektra Records. The album allegedly went unreleased due to its controversial title and cover art, but during this time period, Dumile would disappear. He would report having lived homeless at times, sleeping on benches, being chewed up and spit out by the industry, and during this time, Black Bastards would be bootlegged too and spread around. Dumile wouldn't return to music until around 1998 when he would pop up in open mics here and there, but this time under a new moniker and metal face mask, hell-bent on revenge. Much like Dupont, he realized that the major label system wasn't for him, that his previous character would have to die with the group KMD, and he was going to change everything from here on out. In 1999, he would release Operation Doomsday with his new identity as MF Doom, loosely based on the comic book character of Dr. Doom, and he would adopt the role of a villain instead of a savior. This persona is best characterized by intricate wordplay, complex rhymes, and an affinity for samples from obscure sources, including cartoons and TV shows. MF Doom represents Dumile's rebirth in the hip-hop scene. The mask serves as a symbol of his rejection of the music industry, and a means to keep the focus on his music and character rather than his personal life, similar to Dupont's male clothes. This character is also a vessel for Doom's critique of society, the music industry, and more, delivered through brilliantly constructed narratives. In an interview in 1999, he would give a brief descriptor of Doom. When I made this character, I wanted to be a mother effer that really, really don't give a F. He's taken it to the extreme of not giving a F, but at the same time, he's the most caring mother effer you could really get to know. You know, as far as children and dropping a jewel here and there, but he's just so angry that it might seem like he's on some flipped-ish and some negative-ish. But in actuality, he's flipping on everything that's so negative already that's out. He's trying to turn the whole ship around. He's the villain to the villains that we know. As opposed to Zev Love X's outward approach, MF Doom was more inward and introspective, telling the perspective from this character's point of view, as opposed to a participant, rapping verses like, definition supervillain, a killer who loves children, one who is well skilled in destruction as well as building. While Sidney Sheldon teaches the trife to be trifer, I'm trading science fiction with my man the live lifer. A Pied Piper holler a rhyme, $1 and a dime, do his thing, ring around the white collar crime. demonstrating both sides of his villainous nature, taking shots at an author who he believed was harming people with her books, whilst also taking shots at the system for how they treat white-collar crimes versus smaller crimes. One situation Dumoulin was involved in was when he was arrested whilst on a Greyhound bus for allegedly trying to import drugs. Despite probably getting many offers from major record labels again after his return and success with Operation Doomsday, Doom would never work with a major label again. Near the entirety of his catalog is all independent, and he would work with different indie labels or distributors and different companies to press and distribute vinyls. And similarly to DuPont, his personal life would never leak again. Nobody had any idea, number one, where he lived, how he lived off the mic or off the stage. In all likelihood, he was still the same Daniel Dumoulin, much like DuPont was herself when she wasn't performing as George Sand, but that would remain for those closest to him to see. And we never really got to see on a personal level how Daniel Dumoulin perhaps changed his entire outlook after the passing of his younger brother. One of the funniest things about how serious MF Doom took his character is the Doomposters or Doombots, fakes he would send to perform for him at shows he was booked at. One of the early widely reported instances of a Doomposter appearing instead of Doom himself was at Rock the Bells in San Bernardino, California in 2007. Fans and critics alike reported that the person performing on stage was not the real Doom, citing differences in voice, performance style, and physical appearance. He would get booed off by fans.
Damn, dog. Hey, you really fucked up. I ain't buying no CDs no more, motherfucker. Get your shit straight over there.
Another time this allegedly happened was in 2010 in Chicago at the Congress Theater, where Mos Def was also performing. Fans didn't believe that this was really Doom and would even start flinging bottles at him on stage. This became a part of Doom lore, making him a larger-than-life character. Similar to George Sand's demonstrations, many fans were upset they were scammed. They paid to see MF Doom live, but they got an imposter. But certain fans felt that it was kinda cool. For the most part, the ones that didn't attend the show. They had the disposition of, well, he is a villain. Wouldn't it make sense for him to do villain things? It's performance art and part of the character. Which now added to the excitement whenever Doom was booked somewhere. Was it going to be an imposter? Was it really him? How do you know for sure? And all this talk and promotion and arguments between fans of whether this is right or wrong just grew his character into a figure that transcended human. Doom would address the Doombots and fans being upset with this practice with the following. I'm the effing supervillain. I'm not your friend. You don't have to like me. You're paying for the experience of dealing with the supervillain. Poignant and always in character. He would also never appear in public as Doom without his mask or take it off, regardless of what the situation was. And Daniel Dumoulin would never do another interview again. When it came to release dates, unlike the majority of artists, he would rarely announce one or have a rollout. That's something normal artists were held to, but since he was independent, he would sometimes go years without dropping, without informing fans of any news or what he was working on, until he would randomly release something new, and at times it would just surface. Doom was known for being notoriously difficult to pin down for collaborations as well, often sending verses late or sometimes not at all. Nobody was safe, not even his closest collaborators or popular artists. For instance, Ghostface Killah was supposed to release a full-length collaborative album with MF Doom called Doomstarks. This clip was in 2013, and that album would never be released. Ghostface even spoke on it recently, alluding to the fact that Doom can't be rushed into doing things or even negotiated with.
You know, Doom used to take his time on things, and whenever he's ready, he's ready. You know what I mean? I left all it because it was his production, so I just gave him my rhymes. It been done. It been done years ago, like probably over 10 years, 10, 12 years since I gave him all that work. You know what I mean?
Flying Lotus would talk about how unpredictable it was working with Doom and how sometimes he would have to wait months or even years before he got things back. Even Madlib, one half of Mad Villainy, talked about how there was no follow-up to their album for so long because of Doom's delays, and him sending beats but either never getting tracks back or getting them back so much later it made it difficult to put together another album in a timely fashion. One of the most interesting things about Ghostface Killah that he mentioned about Doom is his reaction to when he was noticed out in public with no mask.
I just see him walking the streets of Europe. I'm like, yo, you know what I mean? He like, you know what I mean? I'm like, he act like he don't hear me. I'm like, yo, don't know. And he'll fuck around, just turn around like, and look through the car like, Like, yo, how you know that was me? I'm like, nigga, I'm looking right at you. That's how I knew it was you. You know what I mean? Yo, but he was cool as fuck. Like, man.
This was someone he knew and collaborated with. But that was Doom, not Daniel Dumoulin. So his reaction is priceless. The split second when he realizes that he's been noticed out of character and has to put the mask on before continuing the conversation. An interesting thing about this law is the reversal, which reads, there can really be no reversal to this critical law. Bad theater is bad theater. Even appearing natural requires art. In other words, acting. Bad acting only creates embarrassment. Of course, you should not be too dramatic. Avoid the histrionic gesture. But that is simply bad theater anyway, since it violates centuries-old dramatic laws against overacting. In essence, there is no reversal to this law.